Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Kicking the Bucket live stream. I see we have, oh, look, we already have a viewer. Oh, actually, do we have a viewer? If you have started viewing it, welcome. I am very glad that you're here. Yes, we do have some viewers. I am your host and the creator of the series, the Kicking the Bucket series. I'm Andi, like Gandhi, but without the G, Kenzie. And Kicking the Bucket is a fiction podcast. So this is a little bit different from those talking back and forth interview podcasts. It's a dramedy because you're going to laugh and you're going to cry, and it's immersive, which means that it's kind of like a TV series for your ears. If you're listening to this live stream before July 2nd, 2025, the show has not premiered yet. Regardless, please visit our website because that is the hub of all things Kicking the Bucket. You can find a link to the show, our newsletter, socials, replays of these live streams, all of that. And we do have our teaser up, so please go subscribe to our podcast on your favorite streaming platform now. Do that today after the live stream. So what is the point of these live streams? They are like bonus content for the show. And today I am very, very excited to welcome Christy Braun, an end-of-life practitioner, to our conversation. Hi, Christy.
Hi, Andi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I can't wait for the premiere. I cannot wait. It's going to be great.
I'm excited too. July 2nd, everybody. So for our viewers, I'm going to start off with some questions. And if you have questions, just drop them in the chat. We will try to get to them as quickly as possible. And that's it. I guess we're going to begin. So Christy, will you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, who are you? Where do you come from? What is your life?
What is life? Well, in the very beginning, my mommy and daddy loved each other so much that I was born.
And you were born.
And I was born. And then I took my first, no. I'm an end-of-life practitioner. People ask kind of what is an end-of-life practitioner? And it's been a journey, right? It's been a journey. So I started my career in insurance. I worked in insurance for a long time, and that was a fulfilling career. Unfortunately, my husband said to me one day, we got to go. We need to buy a boat and get out of here. It was terrible. And so we had a little bit of what we called pre-retirement in the middle. We took 6 years of adventure time and very intentional time to just be. And so we call it pre-retirement.
On a boat or on a boat? On a boat. So you're sailing. Okay, so you're really learning about life in the world. That is life and death.
Like you're absolutely life and death all the time. Yeah. So full time out at sea, learning an entirely new culture, right, of the cruising community, and then all of our ports of call, Mexico, Bahamas, Tahiti, all the different places. And so really experiencing lots of different ways of life. And so when we came back, when we finished, we said we weren't going to do it until it wasn't fun anymore. We got hit by Hurricane Ian, and that wasn't fun. So we made a decision to come back stateside and reestablish our lives. And that's when I kind of got intentional about like, okay, what do I want next? Right. Okay. Sometimes we fall into things that pay the bills. And then when you take that six-year period of time, you really start to think about what's important to you. So intentionally, I came back and moved into becoming a death doula, end-of-life practitioner. So I help people at end of life as they're walking that final path home. So that's a little bit about me.
Like, did something happen on the 6-year time period that made you go, this is what is important?
I think what happened is the slowing down.
Okay.
The cruising life is a much slower life. So there's a stripping away of the trappings of what it means to be, I guess, an American living in this time and space. So there was a stripping away of the things and the have tos and the shoulds. And so it became a very minimalist type of life. So I think it probably refocused both of us into what do we want going forward and what matters most. And so to me, what matters most, what I live for is connection. I really enjoy actually connecting with people, understanding what makes them tick, and moving with them in that space. And what could be more intimate than end of life?
I think this is probably going to get into part of your practice in terms of what matters most. But can you explain to people who may not be familiar, what exactly is an end of life practitioner?
Exactly. It can be a lot of things. So there are a lot of people in the end of life space, end of life doulas, end of life practitioners, and it can start with planning. And I think if you're over 18, you should be planning and talking about what you want towards end of life, what your values are, and communicating that with your family. And then it goes all the way through like a terminal diagnosis, helping people deal with the shock of that and understand how to navigate those precious few months at the end of life. Sometimes I come in at the very, very end. People call me once their person has gone into a deep sleep coma. And so they're looking for support and understanding of what's happening next. And then all the way through grief. I'm meeting with somebody this week who lost their mother, and they contacted me for grief work. So different doulas specialize in different things, but it's really just end of life, like walking with people as they're moving through that.
Um, so we have a comment about slowing down. So when it feels like you do have to slow down when you're thinking about that end of life, do you, I think when you're outside of the sphere, it seems like you want me to imagine my death. You want me to imagine me being dead and me dying. And
Mhm.
that seems so contradictory to like the way we think. So is that how you would describe it? Like, are you having people imagine their deaths when we're talking about end of life planning, or is it more than that?
It's about what's important. I think if we think about end of life and we talk about the fact that this life is finite, then we can really hone in on what our values are and what's important to us now. And we can live more intentionally. So that's kind of the bigger picture with when somebody doesn't have a diagnosis and they want to talk to me because they're getting older or they're thinking about it or they just lost someone and it wasn't a lovely ending. A lot of times people come to me in that and they're like, okay, how can I how can I kind of plan so that the things that are important to me at the very end are in place? Or how can I the one of the workshops that I do is we talk about what's important to us now, and if we only had 24 hours a week to live, what would we do? Okay, why are we not doing those things now? So it's about living intentionally, and it's also about communicating what your values are to your loved ones. Okay, I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
If somebody hasn't done pre-planning and now they're ill and unable to speak for themselves, and one of the siblings says, "Well, I think mom said she wanted this." And one of the siblings said, "No, I talked to her last week and she definitely doesn't want that. Uh, should we put her on a vent? Should there be a feeding tube? Does she want to be buried? Does she want to be cremated?" All of those things, if we think about that now and get that in place, that is such peace of mind that I'm going to be taken care of in the way that I want to be taken care of. And it's also a gift to my loved ones that they don't have to guess and have that "did I do it right" type feeling. So that's a lot of that.
I did. You mentioned it as a gift, and then I was talking to somebody just the other day, and she was telling me how her mom had it all planned in place because she experienced it with her parents, and it was, not what they wanted. Um, and then she was saying the exact same thing. She's like, my mom's figured it out. My siblings and I know exactly what she wants. It's perfect. Like it didn't. So it does feel like a gift, and I don't think we often think about like all of the things that happen after you die, like all of the logistics of, you know, what happens afterwards and what a burden that is on the people who are left behind or still here.
Mhm. Yeah, especially so the survivors, now they've just lost their person. Your brain goes into another place. You're not yourself. You're not in your normal headspace. So going to the DMV is not a is not the same experience when you're grieving and in shock than than it is in everyday life. Okay,
Yeah.
so everything is really magnified when people have lost their person. So it's so nice to have that paint by numbers, you know, everything's kind of planned out instead of having a blank piece of paper. How
Yeah.
I kind of talk about it. That's why the planning is
Yeah.
so important. And to the point of slowing down, that is probably the biggest part of my job is helping people understand that you don't have to rush, especially postmortem. So after the person dies, this is not an emergent situation. You don't
Mm.
need to call 911. If Uncle Harry needs to come, if we need to wait a couple hours for Uncle Harry to come so that he can say goodbye, what do you need right now? How do you need? We've been working with the dying person. We've been making sure that all of their needs are met. Now it's time for you. And let's
Mm.
take a beat or two and slow everything down. So that's probably one of the most important things that I do.
Do you sorry, I'm just like imagining it's like it is like taking that moment is very intense.
Mhm.
So
It's
um
beautiful.
so you said it's not an emergency. So what is it okay to like talk about what happens to the body like at
Yeah,
that time of passing?
of course, of course. So there's a lot of things that lead up to the passing. So um, I'm I'm kind of linear, so we're going to go a little bit chronologically. So
Okay.
as your person, let's say your person is given a prognosis of months, and then you'll see the person take in less and less food because the body is just kind of doing its thing. All bodies shut down pretty much in the same order. So food is going to be less and less important to a dying person. And in our society, anytime, people are like, you have to feed a cold or you got to eat to keep your strength up. Well, as a body shuts down, it needs less and less food. Our dying person might become restless, agitated, just kind of not not
Not
able to
feeling
stay still,
comfortable
but
in the
not
body
able to,
anymore because it's
yeah,
well, okay, yeah.
yeah, the
And
body's just kind of, they may talk about the fact that they're taking a trip. I gotta pack. I'm going on a trip. That is a really good indication that your person is getting, closer. They're kind of embracing that they're kind of going on a trip. They're going to
mhm,
sleep more often. They may
mhm,
experience urinary incontinence or bowel incontinence,
mhm,
confusion sometimes, depending upon the disease process, and then the breathing will change. So breathing changes really indicate that things are moving towards weeks and days. Um, Breathing will slow down normally, but sometimes it'll speed up. But
mhm,
breathing slows down, the facial muscles relax. So there's less, the body has less going on. The circulation is kind of shutting down. So you'll see more mottled skin, um, body temperature fluctuations will happen because the body's like everything's not this kind of how your computer, how your computer starts to slow down
yeah,
and like apps don't fire as quickly,
yeah,
and it's kind of similar. Um, and then towards the very end, um, there'll be some secretions that gather in the chest, and that's when you'll hear the gurgling
uh,
and different things like that, which can be upsetting if you don't know what to expect and you don't know that that's normal. It can be jarring for loved ones to witness this and think that this is somehow something we need to fix. Now, there are interventions, there are ways that we can make that stop, but know that the person is not in pain, and it's not as distressing to the person that's dying as it is maybe to the loved ones. So that's kind of a bird's eye view.
A brief, yeah. So the quick version. So if you're just joining us now, welcome. We're having a great conversation. I'm talking to Christy Braun, who is an end-of-life practitioner. So we're talking about all of those things that are happening at your end of life. It's interesting that you said that it was like people say, I'm gotta get ready for my trip. I've got to pack. Because you said that, and I was thinking, if my parents said that, one of my parents, I would think, oh no, at this point right now, I'd think, oh no, we haven't planned enough. We're not ready for the trip because we didn't get all the planning done. And so, because you plan for a trip, right? So I think in an interesting way, it's like thinking about the end of life planning as you're planning for that trip, what's coming next. So I was watching The Pit, that TV series on TV that happens in the emergency room in Pittsburgh, and they had we talked about this earlier, that moment where the doctor said to the grieving family a way that he learned about saying goodbye to the person who is leaving. And you were very familiar with this. Can you tell us what this is? And because it's a real thing, right?
Yeah, it's a real thing. Yes. Thank you, Noah Wiley. It's a Hawaiian it's a Hawaiian tradition called Ho'oponopono. And it's so beautiful. So there's some people use it as a meditation, right? But in the death and dying space, it's such a beautiful way to kind of tie up all the loose ends, right? Whether I'm the dying person or the person who loves them. So traditionally there's 3 parts, but there's a 4th part too. So the first part is I'm sorry. And that's where we talk about, we internally, or maybe we verbalize the things that we are sorry for and take ownership of our part in things that may have hurt people, transgressions, things like that. The second part is please forgive me, asking for forgiveness. And a big piece of forgiveness is also forgiving ourselves. So there's a lot of work to be done there. I think anybody who's lost someone knows that sometimes there's a niggling piece in your mind of like, I could have done better. And it's about forgiving ourselves and asking forgiveness from that person. And then thank you. I think it's such an important thing. Thank you for the lessons. Thank you for the love. Thank you for whatever gifts that person has given to you. And then the 4th, and I think it's just a beautiful, just end mark at the end of the sentence is I love you. And just really sending that love with the person. And then also administering self-love and taking care of oneself once this person has passed. So I think in the terms of The Pit, it was used as a grief tool, but it can be used as a tool while the person is still living to approach and say these things out loud to the person.
You mean like, because I was just thinking this as you were saying that, I was like, I should be saying that anytime I say goodbye to my kids, like if they're going off, like, could we use it all the time? And like, how would that change things if we use it all the time as because it is a process. We're always screwing up, like we're always,
of course,
right? We do a lot of things wrong. Yeah. So like to have that as a tool, to constantly say, one of the comments is that they loved having the order that you just gave of what happens to the body as it goes through its leaving, its passing on. And they said that they've been in the room with 2 people as they have passed on, and also mentioned a smell. Is there a different smell?
Yes. So, depending upon the person who is, so this person probably has has a heightened sense of smell, whoever experienced this,
Mhm.
because there's a subtle change in energy. So some people will feel the energy start to change, and there may be tingles that they feel. Some people may taste something different in their mouth. And so what that person it's very interesting. What that person is experiencing is that energetic change, but they're experiencing it through their olfactory sense. So yes, there is a subtle change
So
in
not
the
everybody
conversation.
will sense it, but
I
some
don't think
people
every
will? Yeah. Oh,
I have in my experience, everybody doesn't experience
okay.
it.
Oh, that's so cool. All of these
Yeah,
things,
but
because it is like all of your senses, so are
mhm,
involved.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, so can we switch over slightly to from the person who is passing to the people who are left behind? Because I
Mhm,
think that there is a lot of death illiteracy in our society because we just aren't comfortable with it. We aren't familiar with it. And one of the reasons is we don't know what to do, what to say when somebody loses somebody, or even what to do if you're the person who has lost somebody. So I know you have a lot of insight into this and have some tips and tricks, which of course people can go to your website and go to your death cafe and all the things you do to learn all of it. But do you have
yeah.
just little tips and tricks?
So, tips and tricks on what to say, is that the
Well, I guess tips and tricks isn't the right word because can you
seriously?
just
Like, let me
help
pull a rabbit out of my
people
hat.
understand, like, what that is a process too, right? The
Yes.
people who are supporting the person who is
Mhm.
grieving, and I guess there are two different questions. So let's talk
Okay.
about the supporting the person who is grieving first, and then what the person who is grieving might appreciate or need.
Okay. So, I think, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Our society is very death averse. Death is the number 2 fear in the world. That's interesting. Number 1 is public speaking.
Seriously?
So, seriously,
That's
seriously, like,
great.
I'm a real anomaly, people. Uh, I do both all the time.
You do both.
Uh,
You're like, yeah, you're
like,
really
yeah,
settled in the world. Yeah.
they knew I was a weirdo in grade school. They knew I was a weirdo.
They're like
It's
the
fine. They were
person who's
right.
most
What
likely
could you
to,
do?
yeah.
So I think what's really important is bringing the conversation about death out of the shadows and into the light. So you mentioned Death Cafe. Death Cafe happens all over the world. Deathcafe.org to find one near you. The thing that I tell people who are trying to support somebody who's grieving is to ask them what they need. So we're all aware of the platitudes that people use. So sorry for your loss, condolences, right? Those are pretty standard. Some that can hurt. There are some that can hurt. He's in a better place
Mhm.
can be hurtful to people, because I feel like he's in a better place. Um, throws in a judgment or a belief system that your friend may not share,
Mhm.
right? So some of those things, he's in a better place. At least he's out of pain. Those types of things, those are meant to help. All of those things are meant to help. Probably the most helpful thing is, I'm here for you. What do you need? And if they can't tell you what they need, which they're very overwhelmed, I'm here for you. I'm going to bring you dinner on Wednesday night. Do you want Chipotle or do you want In and Out? And that's a very California thing that I just said.
Options.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Here it would be P. Terry's or Torchy's. Yeah.
What Whataburger?
Yeah, Whataburger. Yeah.
Whataburger?
Yeah.
But
So give
but that
options,
kind of thing.
you're saying.
And
Yeah.
giving people options, you know, would you like me to take your child for a play date? If you're parenting the same age kids,
Mhm.
offering to take the child for a play date so that the grieving person can have some time to process. Um, your friends and kind of what they might need. So giving people options is really important in that space, and giving them time, giving them that space, and understanding that whatever they're going through is not about me. So we just hold for whatever that person needs. And I came across a book. Would you be interested in would you be interested in reading it together? You know, whatever your person's into. Um, and playing into that, I think, is really important. And then as the grieving person, setting boundaries is really important. People can't just people can't just drop by. You know, sometimes there's a steady stream of food coming to the house or things like that. If that's not okay with you, it's okay to say, "I'm not accepting visitors right now," or put a note on the door, "I'm not accepting visitors right now. Thank
And
you
can I
so
add
much."
on to that, that
Please.
the people who are supporting the griever cannot take that personally, because I think that
Absolutely.
oftentimes people are like, "Oh, you know, they don't." So, yeah, it's what they, like you said before, it's what they need. It's not about you.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah. So in the death experience, we're talking about it's the need of the person that's dying, right? And we're really focused on that person. Once that person passes, now it's the caregiver, that's their that circle of support, however that whatever that looks like, however big or small that is. Sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's a group of people, and they need that support.
yeah. Oh, Christy, I want to just keep on talking forever, but I am
Okay.
going to be very cognizant of our time. And so do you have any final thoughts? Like, is there something that you want to share that you didn't get to share? Or do you want to talk about the things that you do and how you helps people specifically and where people can find you? What do
I
you
mean, there's so much, right, there's so much more. It's such a wide open and juicy space. Probably just to close out, I just like to thank people for being interested in end of life and for listening in and for um, being part of the change that brings that death out of the industrialized, you know, put it to the side, ship them off somewhere else, and into the conversation. I think those conversations are so rich and juicy. I would love it if people came away from this and they went to their dinner table tonight and said, I just saw this thing with this really weird woman, and she was saying this," and had start that conversation. I think that would be really exciting. There are so many people in the end of life space, so many doulas, so many end of life practitioners that are really, really trying to help people understand end of life and almost embrace it because it's part of life. It's your final rite of passage on this plane. And so yeah, start a conversation. Have a death over dinner chat.
death over dinner, death over desserts, you said as well.
Yes, I do. I've hosted a couple of those for people where we have a bunch of desserts and we people come and we discuss whatever happens to be on people's minds.
Beautiful. So, and thank you to our viewers too, because they're really enjoying this conversation. And one little final bit, can you, um, I don't know, we didn't talk about this, but can you bring in like the importance of the humor or the importance of laughing or the importance of finding those moments of levity within this process?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is it
And that's
important?
kind of my
I'm just assuming that it's important, so it may not be important, but
I don't know. I think it's important, and people that work with me appreciate that there is some levity throughout the process, right? We don't just trudge towards death and serious all the time. I'll give a quick example. I was This is my go-to, and I honestly I want to share it with the world, and I want everybody to say this at every celebration of life, every funeral that you go to, when you hug someone and you want to say, I'm so sorry for your loss, or you don't know what to say, I want you to hug them and I want you to whisper in their ear, just pretend I said something that mattered. Just pretend I said something that helped. And that will get a little bit of a laugh out of somebody. That will bring a little bit because we
yeah,
know that what I have to say right now is not going to take away your pain.
no.
And your pain isn't probably ever going to go away. But I'm acknowledging that, boy, if I could scoop you up and make this better, I sure would. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing to say to people. It's unexpected, and it does bring a little bit of just a little smile to the heart.
Mm. Oh, Christy, thank you, thank you. This has been so lovely. And I'm going to put up our little ticker now so that if people are interested in finding out more about you, go to askchristyb.com, and that's Christy with a Y, and the end of it, not in the middle. So let's see. So next week we're going to have Clayton Stromberger here, and we are actually bringing the Shakespearean aspect into it because Kicking the Bucket has a lot of Shakespeare references. He's going to be talking with us on Thursday, June 19th at 10:30 a.m. Thank you again, Christy. Thank you to our audience. I hope that you come away with something to talk about, like Christy said. And if you didn't, we can just pretend that we all came away with something great to talk about. We said something, we learned something wonderful.
I love it.
So, yeah. I'm going to say goodbye on my end. Christy, do you want to have your goodbyes?
Goodbye. Thank you all so much. And thank you, Andi. Thank you so much for bringing Harold and Dolores into this world. I'm very excited.
I'm excited too. So July 2nd is the premiere. Go to our website for all the links, and we're excited to see you soon. Okay. Thank you, everybody. We're ending now.